So a couple weeks ago, I released a video briefly going over everything you should know about Yakuza Like a Dragon before jumping into it. And as of the release of this video, we finally have a more definitive release window for the Western version. As such, I think now is a good time to do a deep dive on the game's combat system as I share with you everything I've learned over my 70 plus hours with the Japanese version of Yakuza Like a Dragon. Before we get into the video, I do just want to remind you that I stream most days over on Twitch at twitch.tv/RoslinGaming. You can find a link in the video description. We run a pretty chill stream and play a lot of RPGs and JRPGs, so feel free to come over and hang out. Yakuza Like a Dragon changes up the Yakuza formula in a pretty big way. Instead of continuing with the action-heavy combat system it's used for years, it now features a more traditional turn-based JRPG combat system. There is also an entirely new job system, which dictates character growth and available skills, among other things, but I'll be covering that system in a separate video. Battles in Yakuza Like a Dragon begin when you approach groups of enemies roaming the game world. And while you do get a short encounter animation reminiscent of old-school JRPGs, the battles themselves don't take place in their own environment. Once in battle, you will be able to see the HP and MP of your current party members in the lower right hand side of the screen, as well as the names and HP of all enemies in the upper right hand side of the screen. Any beneficial or detrimental effects on your party members will be displayed with a small icon above their character portrait, and beneficial and detrimental effects on enemies will similarly be displayed with a small icon to the left of their name in the upper right hand side of the screen. You can also tell the turn order in battle from the character portraits and enemy nameplates. A yellow arrow will be displayed next to the portrait of whoever's turn it currently is in battle, with a purple arrow indicating whose turn will follow. Now, while the battles in Yakuza Like a Dragon are turn-based, characters on the battlefield don't remain in static locations. Instead, they are constantly moving around. This helps to preserve some of the feeling from past Yakuza titles, but it also serves as an additional layer of strategy. Whenever you choose to attack an enemy, your character will need to move close enough to your target to actually attack. If there's another enemy in the way, then you run the risk of them intercepting you, both preventing you from attacking your initial target, but also potentially causing you to take damage. That being said, this movement can also be used to your advantage. Many special abilities you have access to deal damage to an initial target, and those in close proximity to them. Timing an attack to connect when your target is in a cluster of enemies can result in you dealing large amounts of damage to all of them. This timing can also come into play whenever you knock an enemy down with a special ability or a regular attack. Should one of your party members be close to an enemy who has just been knocked down, there is a chance they will run over and perform a regular attack on that enemy without costing you a turn. Furthermore, should you choose to use a regular attack on a downed enemy for a given character's action, they will deal bonus damage to that enemy. However, the ability to do this also requires somewhat precise timing, as if the downed enemy is too far away from you, they may get up before your character can actually reach them to perform an attack. Now let's take a closer look at the different actions the player can take when one of their party members' turns comes around from the command menu. The attack command is pretty self-explanatory. Select it and the character will perform a regular melee attack with a damage type dependent on their equipped weapon, which is determined by their currently selected job. If an equipped weapon has any special effects, then they will also be applied at this time. For example, some weapons have a chance of applying status ailments, such as bleed, which causes the enemy to lose health every turn. Others, primarily weapons for magic-based jobs, restore a portion of the character's MP on hit. Selecting skills will bring up a menu containing all of the special abilities a character can currently perform. Which abilities are available is dependent on the character's level, their currently selected job, and their job's rank. The skills menu is further broken down into 4 tabs. The first tab contains all abilities a character can currently use. Then there is a tab for all offensive abilities, a tab for healing abilities, and finally a tab for support abilities. To the left of each ability name, you will see an icon that tells you what type of ability it is. A fist, knife, or gun represents a physical attack for blunt, slash, and piercing damage respectively, whereas a staff represents magic damage. If an attack would also deal elemental damage, you will see a small icon to indicate this, with a water droplet indicating cold damage, a flame indicating fire damage, and a lightning bolt indicating shock damage. Icons that are rainbow colored indicate that that ability is a special ability. Special abilities have very elaborate animations and effects, and also sometimes require other party members to be in the active party in order to use them. Beneficial and detrimental status effects are indicated by a circle with a star in the middle of it. You can tell whether one of these abilities is beneficial or detrimental by the red up arrow for beneficial effects to be used on your allies, the blue down arrow for detrimental effects to be used on opponents, and a little sad face icon for abilities that apply status ailments to enemies. Then there is the heart icon, which represents restorative abilities. Abilities that restore a party member's health will have the letters HP by the heart, with abilities that cure status ailments having a little happy face. And abilities that revive a fallen party member will have little wings on the icon. Finally, the resource cost for each ability is shown to the right of the ability name in the menu. Further information about each ability, such as the number of targets, the damage range, and whether or not there is a QTE action associated with the ability, can be viewed at the bottom of the skills menu when highlighting an ability. Going back to the command menu, you can hold down the guard button in order to have the character assume a defensive stance, reducing any damage they may take for that turn, as well as reducing the chance that an enemy attack will either knock them down or knock them back. If you would rather not use an entire turn guarding but still want to reduce incoming damage, you can. If you hit the guard button just before an enemy attack would land on you, then you can reduce the damage just as if you had guarded for that turn. There are 3 main caveats for this though. The first is that the timing is fairly precise and different for every attack in the game. The second is that if an attack would hit multiple times, you must time your button presses for each individual hit. So if an enemy uses an ability that hit 8 times, you must accurately press the guard button 8 times. The final caveat is that if an enemy attack would deal damage to a wide area, hitting multiple party members, you can only reduce damage with this timed guarding for one party member, and only if that one party member was actually targeted for the attack. An area attack that has no specific target cannot be guarded against in this way. The final command on the command menu actually brings up 4 more actions: Item, Member Change, Delivery Help, and Return. Selecting Return simply brings you back to the main command menu. The Items command brings up a menu containing all consumable items that you can use in battle. If you need to use items to restore HP, MP, cure status ailments, or revive fallen party members, then this is where you do it, provided you have an item in your inventory to do so. Items that deal damage to enemies or apply status ailments to them can also be selected from this menu. Member Change allows you to swap a party member other than Ichiban for someone not in your active party. And finally, Delivery Help brings up a menu containing all of the Delivery Help allies you've acquired. These Delivery Help allies function almost identically to summons from other RPGs. Use them and you are treated to a very elaborate and often humorous cutscene, after which they either deal large amounts of damage and or provide numerous beneficial effects to your party, and sometimes detrimental effects to the enemies. Each summon does have a cost, however, to actually use, and this cost is shown at the bottom of their portrait. Additionally, their portrait can tell you other information at a glance as well. A clock and teacup icon with a number beneath it indicates that you must wait that many battles before using a particular summon again. An exclamation mark indicates that the summon will provide an additional effect. And a grayed out portrait indicates that that ally cannot currently be summoned at this time due to special conditions. Highlighting an ally's portrait will also provide you with more detailed information at the bottom of the menu. It is here that you can see what the ally actually does when summoned, what beneficial effect it will receive if its portrait has an exclamation mark on it, and if the ally has any special conditions for actually summoning it. So that covers the bulk of everything about the new RPG battle system in Yakuza Like a Dragon, but there are a few more miscellaneous things to mention. For starters, you can rotate the camera when it's one of your party members' turns, allowing you to get a better view of the battlefield to help line up attacks. I should also mention that in addition to buffs and debuffs on enemies being displayed beside their character plate in the upper right hand corner, they will also be displayed above their name and HP indicators, which appears above the character's models. If you're looking to speed up or automate battles a little bit, there are a few options for that. You can set up 4 abilities to be used by the 4 directional buttons on the D-pad so that you don't need to find them in the menus all the time, and it's also possible to just press the L2 button and have your party members fight for you, though their AI isn't always the smartest with regards to MP consumption, and this should not be used in difficult encounters. And finally, you can run away from combat if you feel you need to just by holding down the L1 button. And that about does it for Yakuza Like a Dragon's new combat system. I tend to really like turn-based RPG battle systems, so I went into this game cautiously optimistic and the devs didn't disappoint. On its surface, the battle system is simplistic, but as you delve deeper, there is quite a bit of depth to it. Though to fully explore this depth, we need to take a deep dive into the job system as well, which I plan to do in a later video. So if you want to learn more about that, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to get notified when I release new videos. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below, or catch me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/RoslinGaming. You can also find me on my Discord server, which is linked in the video description. And finally, if you found this video helpful and informative, please be sure to leave a like. Until next time, take care.